Okay, I should be live now. This is really for level 3. I'll just kind of wait a bit till people get the message that it's live, and I'm not too worried if no one turns up. I just want to go over the stuff that's on the board here, the board, stuff that's on the screen. So really the next step for you guys. So you should have done your plan by now. Some people have turned it in. It's not really due until this Friday. If you have any questions about that, email me. If there are any questions that I haven't responded to in email, then let me know. Email me again so that I can respond properly through an email. And just let me know if the sound's working down there. If there is any issues with sound, I've had issues with sound this morning, just let me know, but I think it's working good now. So the next step is the project management as you build the outcome. So it's kind of building the outcome and the project management. And I know I've gone over the project management stuff before, but the main part for that, and if I bring it up, let's make sure I'm in the level 3 results here. I'll bring it up. Take a sec. The main part is keeping that Trello board updated. So I think if I log into Trello, I should be able to bring up an example. I should be able to bring up an example. I just have to log in. Let's see, what would my email be? Log in with Google. Let's just bring this across here so you can see what I'm doing. Log in with Google. Now I've got a whole lot of people's ones here. Let's just bring up who I know that I have seen. Which one is it that I've looked at before? It might be this one. It might be this one. It looks like it's someone who hasn't given their name on here. No. Oh, that's my one. It's Ben. I didn't see it. Okay, so this here, we've got a pretty good example of things, the user stories, user requirements, and there will need to be more. If I click on it, there's actually more detail in there. So I can see what's going on there. To do, what he's got to do, what he's doing, what is done, what has been abandoned, which that's a good idea. So what things have decided not to do, and what needs to be fixed up. Now it might go further to the right, different links, and so on. So these are things that have been done. Okay, so this is what you need to do with the project management in there. Now if I bring up the actual achievement standard, it is 91901. No, it's not. That's the design one. It's 91907. And it looks like this here. So I just want to go through this just so you've got a record of this, and you can always look back at any time to see what does this standard actually require of me. It does require you to address the relevant implications. You don't need to discuss them in here. You don't need to discuss them because you already discussed them in the plan. So you don't actually need to discuss those relevant implications in here. You do need to address them. And it should be obvious in your outcome where you've addressed them. I did have you write in the previous one how you were going to address them. So that should be obvious. You don't actually need to write anything for that, but you can provide that evidence if you want, if you don't think it's obvious. So at the top here, using recognized and appropriate project management tools and techniques to plan the development of a digital technologies outcome. Now, the examples of project management tools and techniques include agile or waterfall techniques, Scrum boards. Okay, now we're going to use a Kanban board, Scrum board, Trello board. It's all the same kind of thing, really. So this one here is one that I recommend you do. In fact, I put it as the task. You have to do that, the Trello board. Now the other three, this one is a little bit more difficult. Okay, agile development processes. It's a development cycle There's two different types there. The waterfall is you kind of do everything in big chunks and then it leads into the next section, whereas the agile one is more what you're doing, where you do bits and pieces at a time, get it working, and then go into what's called, or you do these things called sprints. And the sprints is when you're developing the outcome, and then you go into a little testing cycle and so on. You're naturally probably going to be doing that more, but I don't really think that you need to focus specifically on that development cycle. By using the Kanban board and having the to-do, the doing, and so on, that is, I guess, a form of very simple agile development. Version control software. It's not enough if you're doing the program to just save multiple versions. You should be using something like Git or GitHub and using that. Now, I will have a video up on how to use that, but very simply, if you were to go to this website here, GitHub, sign up, and if you find the GitHub download, it's GitHub Desktop, and download for Windows, and I'll download it. And it's pretty straightforward to use. It is a complex tool, but for what you guys are going to be using it for, it's not going to be too complex. I'll have another video on how to use this here. It can be used for other things as well, as far as I'm aware. It doesn't have to just be programming tools. You're probably not going to use collaboration tools, but you will use managing assets, especially if you're doing a 3D thing. Okay, so if you're doing a program, you're most likely going to be using those two, the Kanban or the Scrum boards. And if you're doing the 3D, you're probably going to be using the Kanban and the managing assets. If you're doing something else, website, database, it's probably still that top one there, maybe the bottom one, if you've got a very image heavy website, but more than likely it would be that one. Okay, so that's just achieved there. That's the second part. That's that first bit there. Decomposing the digital technologies outcome into smaller components. I've actually asked you to do that in that Trello board, to break it down into what are the different requirements, what are the different things you need to develop. Okay, so that should be done. Trialing the components of the outcome. You should have done a lot of this already, especially in the tutorials that you've done. You need to record them in that Trello. Okay, how you record it is up to you. So, you know, trialing that I've done or tutorials, have a panel for that. It's up to you. Testing that it functions as intended. Okay, so you should have evidence of testing. Okay, if you add that to the Trello, that's fine. You don't need to document anything in a separate document for this. Everything should be done in that Trello board. And as I said before, addressing relevant implications, you don't need to write anything about that. It should be obvious in your outcome. And then using complex processes. So this means effectively using the Trello board, not just breaking it down and looking at it once a day, once a week or something, but actually putting it in there and explaining what you're documenting, explaining what feedback you've got on your development as you've gone through. Okay, so you do need to get regular feedback. It's probably important that you get feedback on a weekly basis. Even if like a few of you get on a stream together, or Discord or whatever, and just show each other what you've been doing, and just 5 minutes, get some feedback, write it down. Pretty simple, and it's not going to take too much time to get that done. Effectively trialing multiple components and or techniques. You should have done that with all the tutorials that you've been doing, so just some evidence of that. And effectively using information from testing and trialing to improve the functionality of digital technologies outcome. What that would mean is, if you've put the tutorial into Trello, or if you don't want to use Trello for that kind of thing and you want a separate document, that's fine, but you're going to be writing about what did that tutorial or what did this bit of information tell you, and how can you apply it to your final outcome. So if it was something like testing some the Eevee renderer in Blender and seeing how that worked, well, how can you apply that to your final outcome? And then lastly, synthesizing information gained from the planning, testing, and trialing of components. So how does it all come together to help you develop the best outcome possible? Well, so this is actually putting all that information together, and then this one is discussing how it led to the development of a high quality digital technology outcome. This bit here is really the only part that you need to kind of write outside of the Trello. And it's probably even a short essay, maybe 500 to 1,000 words on explaining what all the parts are. So what all the planning, all the testing, and all the trialing was that you did, and how it all worked together, and then how it all led to the development of a high quality outcome. But that's more towards the end. Okay, that's kind of after you've done the outcome. These things here are throughout the development of the outcome. Now, if there's any questions, I can answer them. Not at the moment. So what I did say earlier, before there were a few people watching, was that if you do have any questions, email them through. If there's any specific questions, then I can address them. If I think that everyone will benefit from them, I'll do them on a stream. If not, I won't. So the next step is your project management, Trello. Keep it updated, add screenshots, etc. Now it's really easy to add a screenshot to Trello, and I'll try and do that myself. So if I think this was my example one. Paul, these people have missed homework. But if I add a card in here, let's just write a comment. You can attach images. There it is. Add an attachment. Okay, and you can add it from your computer, from Trello, from Google Drive, wherever, and you can add pictures into there. Okay, so that's really handy. I'm not going to add a picture of Paul though. And then we go, so add screenshots in. If you have questions related to Blender, Godot, Django, if there's anything else, then ask. And like I said, I will have a GitHub video soon, probably by tomorrow, because it doesn't take too long, and I've just downloaded the installer so I can get that sorted and show you how to use that if you're doing the programming. I'm pretty sure it will also work for keeping track of 3D stuff as well. If there's no questions though, I really just wanted to kind of touch on what you should be doing now. So you're developing the outcome and you're keeping that Trello updated. So now's the time to start in terms of managing assets, because that is part of it. Making sure that you're setting up folders before you get started, backing things up on memory sticks, etc., Google Drive, all that stuff, and making sure that you are keeping on top of it. So every day I'll just go over some questions. If there's no questions, then I will still go into some stuff in Blender or Godot or Django that I think might be relevant and helpful to people, or sharing some tutorials that I've found, etc. Just because you've started the project now doesn't mean that you can't go back and look at tutorials or even get code from tutorials. There's no real problem with that. You can't steal the entire program, but there's nothing wrong with getting bits and pieces of code and modifying it to your own use. But if there's no questions, and I don't see any, then I will just end the stream and people can watch this when they like. Have you guys, actually before I go, I have a question for you. Have you guys had do your other teachers, have they given you specific dates and times where you have to be on a Zoom meeting or anything like that? No, there's like a 5-second delay here, so it'll be silent for a minute. I'll just fill the gap. Nope. Okay, cool. What are other teachers doing just out of interest? Are they just sending videos out or sending work? Doesn't your teacher live with you, Adam? Fair enough. Oh, okay. All right. So just, yeah, okay, fair enough. That's all right. I'll just do these every day. It's probably easier for me to do this than to write a whole lot of stuff. But like I said, if you have questions, email them through. If there's questions you've already emailed through that I haven't answered, email them again, because later today I'll go through my email and I'll just put them all in a little document like this, and then I'll focus on answering them tomorrow. But until then, I will see you tomorrow.